hope I start coming your front in the grip. Just giving in, close it up, breaking, I'll do it again. This pushing down as you play the...
I have to ask, how you feeling? Day before new release of a single.
Stoked, yeah.
Yeah, super excited. I think, especially with Mark being on the song, with Paleface being on the song, that's just like, that's a whole nother kind of audience base that we're excited to bring in. I think there's a good amount of crossover, but a lot of those kids, I think, probably haven't heard of our band. And so for them to be, you know, exposed to it in that way is going to be really, really exciting. So we've been sitting on it for, you know, however, like 3 months now. So it's just like, we're just ready for everyone to hear it.
Yeah, I'm stoked to see what people think about it. It's a little different and like a little different approach than what we've done with other songs. So I'm excited to see what people think about it and how it's received.
Have you seen any kind of pre-reviews?
We've had, like, other than our friends who we've shown the song, and then I did a podcast, I think last week, and we did like a little sneak preview, and it's been awesome responses so far, which is comforting.
yeah, validating,
reassuring,
sure.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I know that's such an important part of it on the build towards any release, be it an album, single, or EP, as things get drip fed out and you kind of get those press stuff back and responses and things like that, that sometimes that can go some way to easing the mind. It's a big difference, I think, between a critical review and the fans and the people that are going to be on your Facebook and YouTube. But I still think it's cool to kind of be getting that positivity back already. I've heard it.
Yeah? What do you think?
I'm going to keep quiet. You know, we have a review tomorrow. We have a review. We do a big old...
like it.
Yeah.
Rest assured, big fan. I am, all joking aside. We have a single slam goes up tomorrow. I'll be part of that. I really liked it. Particularly as Fox Lake, and to some degree as well, even though they're a bit, you know, well-known Paleface, is these aren't... You neither of you know well. So it's been really awesome experience to hear that collaboration, which I guess is something people are always going to want to know. How did that come about?
We got super lucky just in terms of even I want to say like a year and a half ago, we had we did like a little like ask us anything on Instagram, and we were asking who we should work with, or even like who we should tour with and things like that. It wasn't even specifically for the song, and a lot of people were talking about Paleface. So like I was saying, I think there's a lot of crossover in the fan base, and we had tagged them. And Zelly had responded and was like, yo, I checked you guys out. I love the sound. And so we kind of started like an unofficial internet friendship through that, where, you know, every once in a while we'll reply to each other's stories and stuff like that, and congratulate them on releases and tours and things. So when we were writing the song, we had a big space at the end that we knew we wanted a guest spot in. And we knew we needed somebody who could drive it, because it was pretty... Instrumentally, it was like relatively bare, and so we needed somebody who was going to bring a lot of energy to it. And so it was a super easy fit just to plug him in. He was really receptive, really happy to work with it. So we got crazy lucky because he's a rock star.
Were you aware of Paleface's popularity before the internet friendship even kicked off?
Yeah, I think so. I hadn't ever really listened to the band much before that, but I'd seen them, like my friends talking about them and posting about them too. So whenever we started messaging, I was like, oh, I gotta check these guys out. And so I saw them and I saw their numbers and stuff, and I was impressed for sure. And
we got super lucky in that we had already kind of started talking to them before the most recent album came out, which the most recent album, they stepped it up like crazy. Like they were already doing something awesome, and then on the most recent one, like musically, instrumentally, their numbers, their like the production quality on their videos, all that stuff, it all took a big jump. And so again, we just got like the timing worked out really well. But they actually, I had been aware of them for a while because they forever ago, like several years ago, did a song with some friends of ours in a band called Mugshot. And so like they were kind of like on my radar for a while, just as a sort of peripheral band. And then, you know, clearly over the past couple of years that just started jumping up in popularity. So it worked out.
I had no idea they did anything with Mugshot.
Really?
No, that's very cool.
Dude, we got this. It's
okay,
so funny.
sweet. I didn't know that.
It is an awesome collaboration, but I don't want to focus too much on Paleface. It's Fox Lake, of course. So the track's called Gaslight, and give us some background on it. What was your original vision with this track? And did it turn out exactly as you planned?
No, no, it's gone through some revisions for sure. I don't even really remember how it started. I think we just had a couple of different songs that we were recording and figuring out which one, and we went to the studio and we recorded them, and we were kind of loose on the structure and kind of the direction on a couple of the songs, and we just kind of focused on those 2 songs that we recorded, that one and the single we released beforehand. Yeah, and I don't know, we were in the room and we kind of just started working on it, and it kind of became what it was. And usually we enter the studio, stuff is a little bare bones, and then it gets a little bit more fleshed out.
It was also like, I had a couple of demos lying around with some riffs and ideas, but nothing, concrete as far as like song structure. And that's usually how a lot of it starts, is, like a voice note on my phone of me, like mouthing a riff. I'll be like, bow, ba down, 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 and then I'll go into my computer and do a, really terrible version demo. And then our friend Connor, who's like the unofficial 5th member, he does all our recordings and stuff like that. So he helped write and flesh stuff out. But also on this one specifically, it was a little bit different because I had a couple of times going up and just kind of jamming around with some friends of ours in a band called Mouth for War. Mm-hmm. Mouth for War is from Colorado Springs, which is like an hour away from Denver, where we live.
Yeah.
So we got to just kind of write with them and jam with them and have just kind of like a different perspective, get some different ideas, and try some stuff that we wouldn't have usually done if it was just us writing in the room. So when we brought those ideas into the studio, it kind of took on a different spin. So that's why when you asked, did it turn out how we expected? I think when we started and where we ended is like, it took all kinds of different ways to get there.
Yeah, I forgot originally, like a couple of the dudes from Mouth for War had thrown some ideas and kind of had like a loose structure of like riffs and stuff that they wrote, and then we kind of unpieced it and repositioned some stuff and took some stuff and left some things like that. So honestly, I think this is probably the most people who have touched a song, like overall out of the band and the producers and Zelly and another band and stuff. It's like, I don't know, probably like close to 10 people have had some sort of input or part of the writing process on this song.
That's incredible. You're clearly very comfortable sharing then, which isn't something that you often hear from
I think I want to be careful because I can be very protective. So I think having kind of final say on the song, as weird as that sounds, is like, ultimately, like, we had all these different jam sessions and ideas and, stuff coming in and out. But like we said, at the end of the day, it was us kind of saying, okay, we like this riff, we don't like this riff, we want to use this. This was an idea that we had at one point that sounds kind of cool, but maybe it's not best for us. So ultimately, we were able to put all those pieces together how we wanted it. And that's why, no one else wrote the song for us, but people, we wrote the song with people. Mm-hmm. So we had lots of ideas coming in, we had lots of different perspectives coming in, and then we were able to kind of filter those into what we wanted the song to sound like.
And this was like, when we started a song, we were interested in getting a different set of like ears on it and a different like group of people, just to try something new and see if we liked that process, and that we'd never really done that before, and see if that was something that was even possible. But like, I was stoked with how it turned out, and so yeah, I'd love to do stuff like that again.
I'm glad you're happy with how it all turned out then, particularly particularly when you've got a subject matter that I think will certainly resonate with just about everyone, because it can be both personal, but it can also reflect a wider worldview. Were you strongly aware of the fact that you did have a free and open, almost canvas to paint here?
Yes and no. I recently heard a quote that was, I don't want to butcher the quote, but the basics of it was, when it comes to songwriting, most of the time it's better to write something personal that you need to express and then let people relate to that, rather than trying to write something relatable. So if you're trying to write something in the hopes that like, oh, I hope that other people understand this, or I'm writing something for somebody else, a lot of times you're going to miss the mark, and it's going to come off disingenuous, or it's just going to be, not something that's true to you.
Mm.
And so having something that was specific to Nathan, who writes the lyrics, having something specific to him that was honest with what he was going through and what he was feeling, and then allowing other people to kind of relate to what that feels like, because I'm sure, like you said, that's a pretty universal experience.
Yes.
So yeah.
When the lyrics came your way and you saw them and you heard them, what was your initial impression?
It's funny because every time we look at the lyrics, it's a good thing, but it can be really funny when we discuss it. I take something different out of it, and so when I'm doing a lot of the press for the band, a lot of times I'll be explaining something and I'll send it to Nathan to be like, hey, just wanted to double check, and he's like, that's not what the song was about. So which is awesome, because it means that multiple people can take multiple things out of it. It doesn't have to be so cut and dry. But I love the lyrics. It's super pissed off, and especially with Zelly's part, he just brought something that's just so angry and like cool, and it's not over the top. It's not goofy. It doesn't feel silly. Like I think a lot of deathcore can fall to that kind of trap where it's just it just ends up sounding silly. But it felt honest, but it feels just really pissed off.
Yeah, when the press came my way, one of the things that intrigued me was it was kind of described as your heaviest song to date, as much because of Paleface's inclusion and help on it. And I always take things like that with a little bit of hyperbole, let's wait and see. But I certainly think it sticks. Do you think the influence of what you've done in this track will sort of set you on a path, as it were?
I hope not. Every time we do something that's like really heavy, I'm like, all right, like we gotta chill. Originally, when we started this band, we were obviously it's heavy music, but it wasn't going to be as heavy as other bands we listened to or other music that we made in the past. So me personally, when we do something really heavy, I'm like, man, this is really cool. And then I'm like, next time maybe back it off a bit. So I don't know. I mean, if people like it and it's natural and it's like well responded to, then like sure. But personally, I like stuff like maybe a little less heavy.
I think for us, like one of the cool things is that we've always said you should always be your own favorite band. Because if you're writing music that you don't like, then you're doing something wrong. Yes. And so, we're pretty lucky in that having our foot in so many different camps, whether it's, kind of like the more metalcore base, or like even a little bit of deathcore, that beat down, hardcore, new metal, like alt rock, all that different stuff, to be able to kind of do everything somewhat cohesively allows us a lot of opportunities. And so we can write a super super heavy song, and then on the next one do something a little bit more Rage Against the Machine, a little bit less thick and dissonant, and just a lot more based on the groove. But the cool thing is, because of that wide range, in the future, if we're excited about a heavy riff, if we're excited about a heavy song, I don't think that we have to say, no, we're not allowed to do that thing, or that, that doesn't work for this band.
Yeah, I feel like everything we've done is cohesive and nothing sounds like a different band. So even if it is, on a general spectrum, like things are heavier or not as heavy, I think it's still the same band and it still comes from the same place, and it feels like natural, even if it is a little different from song to song.
You're allowing yourself the freedom to experiment. You're an artist ultimately, and that's so important. And I don't think any fan would really ever bemoan that fact. And I love that you kind of talked about an area that I've noticed, which is Fox Lake are somewhat undefinable. It is very hard to pigeonhole your sound, because in rock and metal we love to put you in a camp. But from your perspective, what I gather, you're very happy being undefinable. But where do you feel that Fox Lake fit? And I'm not necessarily saying a genre, but where do you fit in the grand scheme of the world when it comes to fan bases and say, you got to go on a Spotify playlist?
Mhm.
I mean, the cool thing is it depends on sort of the song, and it depends on, you know, so for example, like Dog Eat Dog, that from like on the instrumental side, from the guitar riffs perspective, that sounds a lot just like a Trapped Under Ice hardcore song. It's, you know, it's really based in that kind of, you know, mid 2000s turnstile, Trapped Under Ice, like bent, like just like those kinds of hardcore bands. That's what I was listening to when I was writing it. And so that song, you know, that could be played at a hardcore fest alongside those types of bands. But then you have something like Tunnel Vision, one of the singles from our first album.
Yeah.
And you know, that can fit in a totally different space. And the cool thing is being able to have multiple fans, being able to expose different types of fans to different types of things. So if it's, you know, roots punk hardcore kids listening to our band, then they get to hear something a little bit more metalcore that they might have previously turned their nose up at. And if it's, you know, metalcore kids who are just excited about hearing something heavy with screaming in it, then potentially we can expose them to some more of that specific hardcore that we're, you know, that we like to go to those shows and we like to listen to those bands. And so, you know, being able to provide all those different perspectives to a wider fan base without having to worry about if it's, you know, kind of like pandering, because it's never like we write a song for this group.
Yep. Sounds to me like you kind of understand the modern trappings of being in a band. Record sales, not that important these days. It's all about your likes, follows, and streaming numbers more than anything else. Do you feel like you do have a good understanding of the all-powerful algorithm?
I don't think anybody does. Yeah. I think if anybody does, they're lying. Like
it is interesting. Like even like I've been, you know, in band since I was like in high school or something. So over the past 10 years or so, just seeing like what kind of bands chase for and what specific stat kind of validates bands has changed so much in just like the last like 10 or 5 years. So it's interesting. Like when I was in high school, it was all about like Facebook likes. And now, and then it was, you know, record sales have kind of dipped down and physical copies and all that stuff aren't so more important. It's all that streaming now. So it's interesting and kind of weird to see how fast things have changed. And maybe by the time we get in a good groove of the current streaming thing, maybe something else will already come along. So it's an interesting industry where things move and change so quickly in such a short time.
I think they're in the process of changing right now. Like I just saw a Twitter thread that was talking about whether or not like monthly listeners on Spotify was a reliable kind of metric for bands. And we're in a weird time where a band can have, you know, 2,000 monthly listeners on Spotify and be killing it, opening on, you know, big tour packages and selling tickets, or you can have bands with, you know, 500,000 monthly listeners who, you know, have a hard time putting people in a room. And so it's while it is something that you can look at to kind of gauge the general population's interest in a band, I think it's hard to rely on that. And that's why I say I don't think anyone actually knows how to like, you know, interpret the algorithm, and because, you know, there are so many different outliers.
It feels like it always comes back to the most important thing for a band, which is a live show and filling out those rooms. And that will always be the best barometer, because if you're doing that regularly, then you must be doing something right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you came to life in 2017. And while, you know, 5 years, a significant portion of that has been spent unable to do not a lot, of course, considering considering how much of your early years as well has been dominated by COVID and lockdowns and so on. What's kept you pushing on? What's been the drive? What's kept you guys going over these difficult past few years?
I would say that like the reception of the fans, I think that when we started this band, you know, it was something we wanted to do, and it seemed like something fun, and we wanted to try to do something different. And that's all good and well and stuff, but after a while, if there's a lot of obstacles put in the way, and there's not much kind of like reward or benefit from pushing through those obstacles, you can fizzle out pretty easy. But for us, I think like we've seen a surprising amount of like interest and good reception, more than I think we thought we would get. So at least for me personally, like that is a huge motivator that, you know, people actually do care what we're doing, and some people, it really does resonate with them, and even if you know, things are a little more slow moving on our personal timeline than we've wanted to, it's always kind of worked out and been worth it. And I don't know, that pushes me through, and that makes it a little bit more, you know, rewarding to do so.
I think I recently I was at a 9-to-5 job for like 6 years, and I just recently left. And in the amount of time, in like 4 or 5 weeks since leaving that job, I have written like, I think like 8 different songs for like, some of them are like kind of like mathcore, not mathcore, but like math rock, like post rock stuff. Some of them are like blackened hardcore, like death metal stuff. And it really kind of defined for me that not making music just doesn't really feel like an option. And so if people are like having some sort of response and seeing the organic growth that we've seen over the past couple of years, has really like, that's what puts the wind in the sails. It's definitely like, you know, that's what defines and pushes that momentum. But the idea of, you know, if it wasn't this band, I'd be making music in another one. So it's like this, for this band to be, you know, experiencing that momentum and experiencing that super organic growth that we've seen, where we've had, I want to say, next to no advertising. We've never, you know, paid for listeners on Spotify or anything like that. And so over the course of the past couple of years, specifically since 2020, since our first album came out, everything that we've seen, all of the, you know, social media engagement and all of that stuff has been almost entirely organic. It's been purely just because word of mouth, or people being interested, or live shows and stuff like that. And so, yeah, for that to be so kind of like reaffirming is 100% what keeps the band going.
Because that's incredible. Almost feels like an end of an interview statement there, how you described that. It really, really was impactful. I have to ask though, following that, from your perspective then, what is it about Fox Lake that resonates with this ever burgeoning fan base?
I think it's like the majority of us in the band, you know, we all grew up listening to like those kind of, you know, Hot Topic, rise core bands, and then kind of progress into like a more like hardcore like music listening and stuff. So we have a lot of like influences, and what we kind of bring to the table is our consistent backgrounds with similar genres, and then going into writing these songs where there's a little bit of different genres, you know, subgenres of the metal. You know, you have a little new metal, and you have you know, metalcore, and you have some beat down, you have some hardcore and stuff like that. So I think there's a good, I'd like to think there's a good blend of a lot of different like subgenres, and that each kid who likes those specific subgenres can glean like a little bit from each song that kind of like goes towards the like subgenre that they actually like. So I think that there's a little bit of everything for everyone in the songs. So I think that helps with it doesn't isolate any sort of you know, music listener.
I also think that we have fun making the music. And so I think that one of the biggest things that we want to present basically at all times is like, we want the shows to be fun. We want social media to be fun. We want the music videos to be fun. We want like listening to the songs to be fun. It should be something that, you know, you can turn on in your car and just groove out to. It doesn't have to be something, you know, there is a lot of substance there. And it's like you were talking about with Gaslight, I think that there is it's not that it's something that we don't take seriously, because we very much do. But you know, at any point you can turn on any of our songs and just bob your head, and that's something that I think that's kind of like one of the cornerstones for this band, is we want it to be a blast. We just want it to be as fun for people to hear it as it is for us to do it.
Yes, some bands take themselves too seriously, and everything has to be like a big spectacle or performance, and it can get like really disingenuine over time. And so I don't know. That's what we've always tried to do, is keeping it like, we're not trying to be or do anything that we aren't naturally and stuff. And like, if you ever meet us and hang out with us, we're just a bunch of goofballs, So it's reflected in the music, but again, like Brandon said, like it is, we do take it seriously, but like it doesn't need to be super serious and like a performance at like all levels of everything.
It makes sense to me. Use the driving analogy. There's the perfect example. There are two types of listening. One, you're listening to it while you're driving. You're not focused on the song. You're focused on driving, but you hear the music and you're bopping your head to it. And the second one, you're sitting at home and you're listening to it and you're paying attention. That's what it is. It's the two different areas. I think it works wonderfully for you. And I think Gaslight, particularly for people who may be hearing you for the first time, whether it be because of the collaboration, whether it be because they just stumbled across you in the magic world of the internet, I think that's going to work for that as well.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that's what we're hoping.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that.
Guys, what does the bigger picture look like right now? Focus is on Gaslight. As of the time recording, it's out tomorrow. By the time this video is up, it is out, so you'll be able to listen to it while listening to us as well after or before. But what does the bigger picture kind of look like right now that you can talk about? You've mentioned songwriting.
Yeah, we're actually headed to the studio in like 4 weeks. We're going to be going out to Texas to work on a couple more songs that should be out before the end of the year. So we're super excited about that. We've got we're only recording 2, but I think we have like 5 that we're going to try to pick our favorites from. And kind of behind the scenes, we've been gearing up to write a full length, and we're trying to figure out what that looks like based on just how much we can afford and how many songs we have ready to go and things like that. We just confirmed a tour in January. We're trying to find something to go out for a week or 2 in the fall. And new merch designs, new music videos, new art, new songs. Just like we're really pushing. I think this year and next year we're just like heads down, and it's gonna be consistent.
Fantastic. I mean, you've got to take advantage of the world opening up, particularly as this year, 2022, bit of a write-off in regards to getting on tours, festivals, and so on. So yeah, 2023 is the window, right?
Well, and for us, unfortunately, specifically, we're still battling with that, kind of like the way that the entertainment industry is handling COVID, because we just had our tour in April with Desolated from the UK, and that actually got canceled. Well, the tour went on. We had to cancel due to a COVID test. And then like 2 months later, we were out with our really good friends in Guerrilla Warfare and had to come home from that one too. So like we're still battling with the entertainment industry and COVID, and trying to figure out how to keep people safe, but also how to not be dropping off shows every single time you hit the road.
Yeah, I mean, people are still being very understanding about these situations. Even right now, we are one of our bigger festivals. Bloodstock is about to take place about 2 days out today, and bands are still dropping off and being replaced because of the old COVID and travel issues and stuff like that. So trying to make the best of it we can, I think, and I guess you're going to have to do the same. But what's a realistic goal, right, that you would like to achieve, say, by the end of 2023?
During the UK.
Yeah. I would say, Europe.
Whether it's Australia, New Zealand, Europe, we've had, it still blows my mind to this day, but we've had massive response from a lot of those countries. And, whether it's Germany or like the actual UK itself, or again, Australia or New Zealand, we've had bands reach out to us. We've had people reach out to us looking at our Spotify metrics and stuff. We have a lot of listeners in those areas, which is such an honor and kind of like blows our minds. But
Yeah.
we've talked to our booking agent a couple different times about trying to get out there. And at this point, it's just we're still kind of like wrestling with how to make it happen. But that's very realistic at this point. It's just a matter of scheduling it and finding the bands that are interested and available, and
Yeah.
work visas and stuff like that.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, it was like that's always been like a goal that all of us have really wanted to do, but it seems wildly unattainable.
Yeah.
And then just in the last like 2 years or so, it's like it's gone from like this like big pipe dream to like actually something that like genuinely could happen, which is very exciting because like all of us in there would be like international travel and playing shows and stuff. Sounds like the coolest experience.
It's not if, it's when. And guys, I mean, the UK is a perfect place for it. You can pretty much come here for a week and do all the major cities. And because of your style and the variety in your sound, any bill, any venue, you will work wonders.
Yeah, dude, I've seen like, I feel like the UK just loves heavy music so much more than the US does. So like, I see like small bands who do small tours in the US and then they go to UK and they're playing like giant sold out fests and stuff. And I'm like, that's cool. Like Europe and UK get it more than US do when it comes to heavy music. So I think it'd be a lot of fun to get out there for sure.
I think part of the reason why that is because we don't get those mammoth, gigantic tours where lots of massive bands are put together into one bill and then do X amount of states because we're a small country. Bands come over their own and stuff like that. So there's not more desire for it. But I can't wait. I hope you get the opportunity, and I hope Gaslight blows up exactly as you want it to be. Gents, thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Happy to do it.
Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Tumblr. Go to Patreon and help us out over there. That's patreon.com/gbhbl, as well as Big Cartel, where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favour, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror, and heavy metal. What else is life for?